man, the president, this thing. I have a copy.
After several violations, the first one was killed.
I agreed. The first one was killed. Ozoka's son was killed. It was Fani Kayode that killed it. Then there was a Odushilu's report. No, there was Odushilu's report. That one was not released. That one was a petition.
Why would you allege that Fani Kayode killed?
It was the minister.
I'm not alleging.
It was the minister.
I'm not alleging. It was the minister at that point in time when that report was submitted by Ozoka.
Exactly.
Engineer Ozoka was heading AIB then. And then he had a relationship which he did not want. He didn't want that relationship to be impacted on. And he took that report. He said he will not release that report. He was not going to. And said that there was a bomb in the aircraft. But FBI came up to this place, they're going to take the pieces and subjected them to ballistic analysis and came back with a report that there was no scintilla of evidence of bomb in that this thing. But he sat on it and refused to release it. And that's this thing. And he had reasons for that, because if there's a bomb in an aircraft, then every other reason is subsumed why the aircraft crashed. But like I told them, any aircraft that is blown up in the air, the pieces will scatter from this thing. Panam 103 is there. The blowing up of Zia ul Haq is there. But the Bellevue aircraft turned this and dug into the ground. The engines were still powering into the ground. It took up to 1 week before they could dig out the disc. If you go to where it crashed in this, it's like a little crater. So that's not an aircraft blown by bomb. I know when I say he sat on it, if he refuses, I will give him further evidence. But this is not for this matter.
Okay.
Because
we've got very limited time, we've got to manage our time. Let's move on to the House of Reps oversight function on this particular issue. Malaki, I'll start with you. Do you think they have done well? We saw on Sunrise Daily where we had Zachary Mohammed, who's a member of the House and also a member of the House Committee on this on aviation, and he said yes, they've done their job. They turned down any opportunity of asking the House to approve the procurement of these vehicles. So do you think they have done well in terms of oversight? And then let's look at the second option, a second issue, which is the issue of this probe that is going on. Will it amount to anything? But we've got to be very quick because we've got very limited time now.
What Mohammed said is what he's bound to say as a spokesperson of however, yes, however, if you take it in context, you will find that the oversight function of the legislature stands out as one of the three key functions of the legislature. That of lawmaking, that of budgeting, and that of oversight. In a constitutional democracy, all of these three must play out for effective governance. Now, what has come out of this situation, clearly, to lawyers at least, is that if the committees, the House or Senate committees on aviation, proactively oversighted this ministry as they were bound to, they ought to have found that which they rejected by way of budgetary allocation has already found its way surreptitiously through the back door and have, assumed life in the form of these purchases that we now have. So for Zachary to say they've done wonderfully well is to accept what he's bound to say. The truth is that not much is happening, and we have been severally treated to know why it is so.
Okay, so let's move quickly then to the issue of, do you think anything will come out of this probe by the House?
What will come out is what we have always had in the past.
Which is?
Namely that whereas we will have a situation, bad as it is, to deal with, they move in and the problem will become more compounded. It happened in power, it happened in aviation, it happened in Farouk Lawa situation. So I have very little faith in what is going on. at the moment.
Well,
Okay, quickly before we go, we've got some reactions from home, and this is from Wale Ajayi. Wale Ajayi says the matter is for the EFCC or the ICPC to investigate, not a presidential panel. I smell a cover-up here, says Wale Ajayi.
okay, there are quite a few people who have tweeted at us. There is Adeyinka who says, to think the federal government is looking at assembling of cars in Nigeria, can you imagine the satire? This is atrocious. And then there is Stoba Ash, who says the issue is about the misplaced priority when our airspace is not safe. She is busy spending $1.6 million on cars.
His Royal Saintness says, no doubt, if Moses had set up committees, Israel would still be in Egypt.
And then there's another one called this gentleman. I can't read the name too well, but I understand saying that probes are too many and nobody is in jail. So,
Abel Okodua says there's no point setting up a committee to investigate the BMW scam. Well, it might be necessary so we can get to the bottom of it. We want to know exactly what is going on. Was it budgeted for? Did it follow due process? And who is approving? Who approved the budget to buy cars at this kind of price when Barack Obama's official car costs only $300,000?
That's not true. That is not true. That is not true. That is not true. Barack Obama's bill is $1.5 billion.
The beast.
In fact, there's no
In
price
fact,
for it.
on March
There's no
20th,
price for it.
there is the price for it. On March 20th, when he traveled to Israel
I
for his first official trip,
okay.
on March 20th,
When
it was widely carried. It
when
was widely
the-
carried. Hold on, please. It was widely carried by the Daily Mail, by CNN, and so many other things. When one of his aides wrongly put in gas inside of diesel inside it, they reported that vehicle, the beast, and I googled it online to check because you see that is the problem I'm saying, that people don't do research and they just carry all sort of false news. And I don't like this notion of people this pulling down syndrome or other syndrome. Agreed. I've been one of the strong critics of this administration. But when we see certain things, we should be able to state it. If you are right, if somebody is doing something right, state it. Let's not bandit figures that are wrong. The beast is sold for $1.5 million, not 300,000. Say wrong information, but estimate.
But the beast is a purpose
No,
built
I'm not using
car.
it to
It's the
justify
only one of its kind.
Please, man. I'm
So
not going to
this one was not built specially for that
And
president.
he's not using it
understand
to
the
justify, but what he's trying to say is that somebody who says that it is
Somebody
$300,000
yes, who brought this
It's
ignorant.
wrong. So
Yes, that's
Mr.
right.
Layemo,
It's a very
please be
The
informed.
beast is 1 point something
It's
billion.
$1.5 million.
I-
And please, let me
I
say
also
this.
saying it's
Let me
really
say
more
this.
than that.
In all this issue, we must also realize that the NCAA is also a body on its own, even though it's under the Aviation Ministry. And we must also, and under the Public Procurement Act 2007, which is being they are trying to amend now in the National Assembly, under the Public Procurement Section 20 and some other sections of that P, clearly states that the burden of accountability, because you cannot delegate accountability. You cannot allocate it. The burden of accountability rests on the accounting officer, which in this case is a DG of that body, not even the minister. Now, they said they sought approval from her. Okay, if this same minister has not approved it, they will say she is interfering in a body that's supposed to be autonomous. That is what they would have said. Now, I'm not holding brief for her. I don't know her for anywhere, but we must be able to state the facts clearly. The truth is that the burden of accountability, based on that Public Procurement Act, rests on the DG. Nobody is saying anything.
But Mr. Recall what Chris said, that we don't have the facts. Because in all the stories we've heard that's in the public domain, we have also been told that the NCAA was not even aware of the purchase. The first they heard was when the minister said, sign that you have received these cars.
but these are allegations.
These are all stories that we
They are
have.
allegations. We don't have the full
Let me
Now,
tell you
we
one
got
thing-
to go now,
well,
guys.
for me,
We've got to
one
go
thing
now.
that is very encouraging to me that I'm looking at is the involvement of First Bank. First Bank is a bank with absolute integrity, almost near absolute integrity. And if First Bank is least financing any equipment, First Bank will not want to be tainted. I want to assume that. I want to give it to them until the contrary is proven.
Okay.
But having said that, let me tell you about the house. The house saying they've done all that they should do. They have
In
not
their
done.
oversight function.
They have not done.
Okay.
Okay?
Those are
That is
stories.
point blank. They've not done it, not just in oversight function. And unfortunately, I was a consultant to the National Assembly on the Dana crash. there are 52 recommendations that will help change the industry.